Very well. All right. So now we're ready to get started. This is um, chapter 6 of the Science of Self-Realization, section A, crime, why, and how to fix it or something. I can't see the whole title there. But this section is called Can We Keep Society from Going to the Dogs? Srila Prabhupada speaks to India's Bhavan's Journal. India's Bhavan's Journal. A dog comes when there are some eatables. I say, hut, and he goes away. But again he comes. He has no memory. So when our memory of God is reducing, that means that our human qualities are reducing. There is no religion, simply a dog's race. The dog is running on four legs, and you are running on four wheels. That's all. And you think that the four-wheel race is advancement of civilization. Hare Krishna. That's an excerpt from the interview. Okay. Interviewer. The first question is this. Is the influence of religion on the wane? And if so, this factor does this factor account for the increase in corruption and the widespread deterioration of moral values? Hey, Hare Krishna. Thanks for tuning in. Srila Prabhupada says, yes, religion is on the wane. This is predicted in the Srimad Bhagavatam 12:2:1. Tatash chanudinam dharma satyam shautram shramadaya kalena balina rajan Nankshyattyayor palam smritihi. In Kali Yuga, the present age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the following things will diminish: religion, truthfulness, cleanliness, mercy, duration of life, bodily strength, and memory. These are human assets, which make the human being distinct from the animal. But these things will decline. There will be no mercy. There will be no truthfulness. Memory will be short, and the duration of life will be cut short. Similarly, religion will vanish. That means that gradually we will come to the platform of animals. Interviewer, religion will vanish, will become animals? Srila Prabhupada. Especially when there is no religion, it is simply animal life. Any common man can distinguish that the dog does not understand what religion is. The dog is also a living being, but he is not interested in understanding the Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam. He's not interested. That is the distinction between man and dog. The animal is not interested. So when the human beings become uninterested in religious things, then they are animals. And how can there be happiness or peace in human society? They want to keep people like animals, and they are making a United Nations. How is it possible? United Animals, Society for United Animals. These things are going on. Interviewer, do you see any hopeful signs? Srila Prabhupada, at least they have detected that religion is declining. That is good. Declining means that they are going to be animals. In logic, it is said that man is a rational animal. When the rationality is missing, then he is simply an animal, not a human being. In human society, either you become Christian, Muhammadan, Hindu, or Buddhist. It doesn't matter. There must be some system of religion. Human society without religion is animal society. This is a plain fact. Why are people so unhappy now? Because there is no religion. They are neglecting religion. Hmm. One gentleman has written me that Tolstoy once said, unless dynamite is put underneath the church, there cannot be any peace. Even now, the Russian government is very strictly against God consciousness because they think that religion has spoiled the whole social atmosphere. Interviewer, it seems there could be some truth in that. Srila Prabhupada, the religious system might have been misused, but that does not mean that religion should be avoided. Real religion should be taken. It does not mean that because religion has not been properly executed by the so-called priests, religion should be rejected. If my eye is giving me some trouble on account of a cataract, it does not mean that the eye should be plucked out. The cataract should be removed. That is Krishna consciousness. Interviewer, I think history shows that many people have misused religion. Isn't that a fact? Srila Prabhupada, these people have no conception of God, and they are preaching religion. What is religion? Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. The path of religion is directly enunciated by the Supreme Lord. They have no conception of God. They do not know what God is, and they are professing some religion. How long can it go on artificially? It will deteriorate. That has become the present condition. They have no idea of God, so how will they know what is the order of God? Religion means the order of God. For example, law means the order of the state. If there's no state, then where is the order? We have a clear conception of God, Krishna. He's giving his order and we accept it. It is clear religion. If there is no God, no conception of God, no order of God, then where is religion? If there is no government, then where is the law? Interviewer, well, there wouldn't be any law. It would be an outlaw society. Srila Prabhupada, outlaw. Everyone is an outlaw, manufacturing his own concocted system of religion. That is going on. Just ask, in any religious system, what is their conception of God? Can anyone tell clearly? No one can tell. But we shall immediately say, Venum quanamtam arvinda dalaya taksham, paravatam samasitam buddhasundarangam, kandarpakoti kamaniya vishesha shobham, govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval lord who is adept in playing on his flute, whose blooming eyes are like lotus petals, whose head is bedecked with a peacock's feather, whose figure of beauty is tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and whose unique loveliness charms millions of cupids. Brahma Samhita 530. Immediately we can give a description of God. If there is no idea of God, then what kind of religion is that? Interviewer, I don't know. Srila Prabhupada, it is bogus. People have no conception of God, and therefore they have no understanding of religion. That is the decline. And because religion is declining, the human beings are becoming more and more like animals. Animal means that one has no memory. A dog comes when there are some eatables. I say hut, and he goes away. But again he comes. He has no memory. So when our memory of God is reducing, that means that our human qualities are reducing. In the Kali Yuga, these human qualities will be reduced. That means that people are becoming like cats and dogs. Interviewer. Here's the second question. The traditional charge against Vedic culture is that it is fatalistic, that it makes people slaves to the belief in predestination, and that it therefore inhibits progress. How far is this charge true? Srila Prabhupada, what is that progress? Is a dog's jumping progress? Is that progress? A dog is running here and there on four legs, and you are running here and there on four wheels of the automobile. Is that progress? That is not the Vedic system. According to the Vedic system, the human being has a certain amount of energy. And since the human being has better consciousness than the animals, the energy of the human beings is more valuable than the energy of the animals. Interviewer. Probably no one would dispute that the human being has more freedom, or I suppose responsibility than the animals. Srila Prabhupada. So human energy should be utilized for spiritual advancement, not that the energy should be employed to compete with the dog. The saintly person is not busy like the dog. Today, people think that dogness is life, but actual life is spiritual progress. Therefore, the Vedic literature says, Tasyaiva heto priyate tako vido, nalabhyate yad brahmatam uparyada, talabhyate dukadvat anyatak sukam kalena sarvatra gabir ramhasa. The translation says, persons who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined should endeavor only for that purposeful end, which is not obtainable even by wandering from the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, down to the lowest planet, Pataloka. As far as happiness derived from sense enjoyment is concerned, it can be obtained automatically in the course of time, just as in the course of time we obtain miseries, even though we do not desire them. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.18. Interviewer, could you explain that a little further? Srila Prabhupada. The human being should exert his energy for that thing which he did not get in many, many lives. In many, many lives, the soul has been in the forms of dogs or demigods, cats, birds, beasts, and many others. There are 8,400,000 different types of bodies. So this transmigration of the soul is going on. The business is, in every case, is sense gratification. The business in every case is sense gratification, which means, interviewer says, Srila Prabhupada, for example, the dog is busy for sense gratification. Where is food? Where is shelter? Where is a female? Where is defense? The man is also doing the same business in different ways. This business is going on life after life. Even a small insect is trying for the same thing. Birds, beasts, fish, everywhere the same struggle is going on. Where is food? Where is sex? Where is shelter? And how to defend? The Vedic literature says that these things we have done for many, many lives, and that if we don't get out of this struggle for existence, we will have to do them again for many, many lives. Interviewer, I'm beginning to see. Srila Prabhupada, yes, so these things should be stopped. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj makes this statement. Sukham Aindriya Yakam Daitya Deha Yogena Dehinam Sarvacha Labhyate Daivad Yata Dukam Ayatnataha. My dear friends, born of demonic families, the happiness perceived with reference to the sense objects by contact with the body can be obtained in any form of life, according to one's past fruitive activities. Such happiness is automatically obtained without endeavor, just as we obtain distress. Bhagavatam 7:6-3. A dog has a body, and I have a body. So, my sex pleasure and the dog's sex pleasure, there is no difference. The pleasure derived out of sex is the same. A dog is not afraid of having sex pleasure on the street before everyone, and we hide it. That's all. People are thinking that to have sex pleasure in a nice apartment is advanced. However, that is not advanced, and they are making a dog's race for this so-called advancement. People do not know that according to whatever kind of body one has acquired, the pleasure is already stored up. What do you mean, the pleasure is already stored up? That is called destiny, Prabhupada says. A pig has got a certain type of body, and is eatable as the stool. You cannot change it. The pig will not like to eat halava, a dessert made of sweet and buttery toasted grains. It's not possible. Because he has a particular type of body, he must eat like that. Can any scientist improve the standard of living of the pig? And to interviewer, I doubt it. Srila Prabhupada, therefore, Prahlad Maharaj says that it is already stored up. The pleasure is basically the same, but a little different according to the body. The uncivilized man in the jungle is having the same thing. Now, people are thinking that civilization means constructing skyscraper buildings. But Vedic civilization says no, that is not advancement. The real advancement of human life is self-realization. How much you have realized yourself. Not that you have constructed skyscraper buildings. Interviewer, but wouldn't what you're saying make sense to most people? Srila Prabhupada, sometimes people misunderstand. In a high court, a judge is sitting soberly, apparently doing nothing, and he is getting a high salary. Someone else is thinking, I'm working so hard in the same court, rubber stamping, and not getting 1/10 the salary of the judge. He's thinking, I'm so busy, working so hard, and I'm not getting as good a salary as the man who is just sitting on the bench. The situation is like that. The Vedic civilization is meant for self-realization, not for a dog's race. Interviewer, still, isn't it usually considered honorable to work hard, to struggle, and eventually get ahead in life? Srila Prabhupada, the karmis, the fruitive workers, have been described in the Bhagavad Gita as mudhas, asses. Prabhupada, he must be in India right now. When he's in India, he preaches like it's like heavy. So he must be speaking. He's in India speaking to an Indian interviewer. You should, some devotees who listen to Srila Prabhupada's classes in Hindi, Srila Prabhupada, when he's preaching in India, he would do some lectures in Hindi. And they tell me, they said he's so heavy. He's so heavy in Hindi because he's not preaching to the Americans. At that point, he's preaching directly to the Indian people who should be doing these things. It's their culture. But anyway, so if it seems heavier than normal, it's because he's probably speaking in India, I suppose. The karmis, fruitive workers, have been described in the Bhagavad Gita as mudhas, asses. Why are they compared to the asses? Because the ass works very hard with loads on his back, and in return, his master gives him only a little morsel of grass. He stands at the door of the washerman and gets grass while again the washerman loads his back. He doesn't have the sense to think, if I go out of the cottage of the washerman, I can get grass anywhere. Why am I carrying so much? Hmm. Interviewer, that brings to mind some people I know. Srila Prabhupada. The fruitive worker is like that. He's very busy in the office, and if you want to see him, he will say, I'm very busy. So what is the result of your being so busy? He takes 2 pieces of toast and a cup of tea, and for this purpose you are so busy. He does not know why he is busy. In the account book, you will find that the balance was $1 million, and now it has become 2 million. He's satisfied with that. But he will take only 2 pieces of toast and 1 cup of tea, and still he will work very hard. That is what is meant by karmi. Asses, they work like asses without any aim in life. But Vedic civilization is different. The accusation is not correct. People in Vedic civilization are not at all lazy. They are busy for a higher subject matter. Prahlad Maharaj stresses that this busyness is so important that it should begin from one's very childhood. Kaumara achara pragya. One should not lose a second's time. That is Vedic civilization. The asses see, these men are not working like I am, like dogs and asses, and they consider that we are escaping. Yes, escaping your fruitless endeavor. The Vedic civilization is meant for self-realization. Interviewer, could you give us more of an idea what the Vedic civilization is like? Srila Prabhupada. The Vedic civilization begins from the Varnashram system. In the Varnashram system, there is this arrangement. Brahmanas, intellectuals and advisors, Kshatriyas, administrators, Vaishyas, merchants and farmers, Shudras, workers, Brahmacharis, celibate students, Grihastas, householders, family people, Vanaprasthas, retired married people, and Sannyasis, renounced monks. The ultimate goal is that Krishna, the Supreme Lord, should be worshipped. So if you worship Krishna, then you fulfill all your occupational duties, either as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, anything. Take to it immediately. Take to Krishna consciousness. This is so important. Interviewer. If people really knew about a lifestyle that was more natural, more fulfilling, what would be the problem? They actually would, as you say, take to it. Srila Prabhupada. But they do not know, and therefore there is no religion, simply a dog's race. The dog is running on 4 legs, and you are running on 4 wheels, that's all. And you think that the 4-wheel race is the advancement of civilization. Therefore, modern civilization is practically said Therefore, modern civilization is practically said to do nothing. Whatever is obtainable by destiny, you will get, wherever you are. Rather, take to Krishna consciousness. The example is given by Prahlad Maharaj that you do not want anything distasteful, and yet it comes upon you. Similarly, even if you do not want happiness which you are destined, it will come upon you. You should not waste your energy for material happiness. You cannot get more material happiness than you are destined. Interviewer, how can you be so sure of that? Srila Prabhupada, how shall I believe it? How shall I believe it? Because you get some distressful condition, although you do not want it. For instance, President Kennedy died by the hand of his own countrymen. Who wanted it? And why did it come? He was a great man and he was protected by so many, and still he was destined to be killed. Who can protect you? So, if the distressful condition comes upon me by destiny, then the opposite position, happiness, will also come. Why shall I waste my time for this rectification? Let me use my energy for Krishna consciousness. That is intelligent. You cannot check your destiny. Everyone will experience a certain amount of happiness and a certain amount of distress. No one is enjoying uninterrupted happiness. That is not possible. Just as you cannot check your distress, you cannot check your happiness. They will come automatically, so don't waste your time for these things. Rather, you should utilize your time for advancing in Krishna consciousness. Interviewer. Hmm. Would a Krishna conscious person not try for progress? Srila Prabhupada. The thing is that if you are trying for progress vainly, then what is the use of that? If it is a fact that you cannot change your destiny, then what is the use of trying? We will be satisfied with the amount of happiness and distress we are destined. Hmm. Vedic civilization is meant for realization of God. That is the point. You'll find in India that during important festivals, many millions of people are coming to take bath in the Ganges because they are interested in how to become liberated. They're not lazy. They are going thousands of miles, 2,000 miles away to take bath in the Ganges. They're not lazy, but they are not busy in the dog's race. Rather, they are busy right from their childhood trying to become self-realized. Kaumara achara pragyo dharman bhagavataniha. They are so busy that they want to begin the business from their very childhood. So it is the wrong conception to think that they are lazy. Then the question may be raised, says the interviewer, that if destiny cannot be checked, then why not let every newborn child simply run around like an animal, and whatever is destined to happen to him will happen? Srila Prabhupada, no. The advantage is that you can train him spiritually. Therefore it is said, Tasyaiva heto prayate tiko vida. You should engage your energy, sorry. You should engage your energy for self-realization. Ahai tuki apratihata. Devotional service, Krishna consciousness cannot be checked, just as material destiny cannot be checked. Your advancement in spiritual life cannot be checked if you endeavor for it. Actually, Krishna will change destiny, but only for his devotee. He says, Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayashyami. I shall give you all protection from all reactions of sinful activities. Gita 1866. For instance, if one is condemned by the law court to be hanged, no one can check it. Even the same judge who has given this verdict cannot check it. But if the defendant begs for the mercy of the king, who is above all the laws, then the king can check it. Hey, Yogi's here. Hare Krishna. We've been missing you on the call. Oh, he's not on. Yeah, I think so. Okay. Therefore, our business is to surrender to Krishna. If we artificially want to be more happy by economic development, that is not possible. So many men are working so hard, but does it mean that everyone will become a Henry Ford or a Rockefeller? Everyone is trying his best. Mr. Ford's destiny was to become a rich man. But does it mean that every other man who has worked as hard as Ford will become a rich man like Ford? No, this is practical. You cannot change your destiny simply by working hard like an ass or a dog, but you can utilize that energy for improving your Krishna consciousness. Interviewer. Exactly what is Krishna consciousness? Could you tell us more? Love of God. That is Krishna consciousness. If you have not learned to love God, then what is the meaning of your religion? When you are actually on the platform of love of God, you understand your relationship with God. I am part and parcel of God. Then you extend your love to the animal also. If you actually love God, then your love for the insect is also there. You understand this insect has a different body, but he is also part and parcel of my Father. Therefore, he is my brother. Then you cannot maintain a slaughterhouse. If you maintain a slaughterhouse and disobey the order of Christ, thou shalt not kill, and you proclaim yourself Christian or Hindu, that is not religion. Then it is simply a waste of time, because you do not understand God. You have no love for God, and you are labeling yourself under some sect. But there is no real religion. That is going on all over the world. Interviewer, how can we cure the situation? Srila Prabhupada, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If you do not accept that Krishna is the supreme entity, then try to understand. That is education. There is someone supreme. Krishna is not Indian. He is God. The sun rises first in India, but that does not mean that the sun is Indian. Similarly, although Krishna appeared in India, now he has come to the Western countries through this Krishna consciousness movement. That's the end of that section. If we have any discussion before we go to the next one. Hey, we got mail here in the chat. Okay, okay. Any reflections, points of interest, comments? All right. We'll keep it rolling then. We'll find something. The Supreme Welfare Work. Srila Prabhupada exchanges letters with the Secretary of the Andhra Pradesh Relief Fund Committee of Hyderabad, India. Quote, if you want to perform relief work by collecting funds, I think that will not be successful. You have to please the Supreme Authority, and that is the way to success. For example, due to the performance of Sankirtan, congregational chanting of Hare Krishna, here the rain has begun to fall after a drought of 2 years. Revered Swamiji, the residents of the Twin Cities are happy to have this opportunity to meet you and your esteemed followers. You may be aware that due to inadequate rainfall during the last 2 years and its complete failure this year, more than half of our state, Andhra Pradesh, a state in southern India, is in the grip of a serious drought. With a view to supplement governmental efforts to combat this evil, a central voluntary organization of citizens drawn from various walks of life has been set up. The members of this organization surveyed the areas affected by the drought. The situation is pathetic. There are villages where drinking water is not available for miles. Due to scarcity of fodder, the cattle owners are parting with their cattle for a nominal price. Many of the stray cattle are dying away due to unavailability of fodder and water. The food problem is also very serious. Due to high prices of food grains on the open market, purchase of grains at market prices is beyond the reach of poor villagers, with the result that at least 5 to 6 million people are hardly having one meal a day. There are many who are on the verge of starvation. The entire situation is most pathetic and heartrending. We therefore appeal to your reverend self to consider how your society could best come to the rescue of these millions of souls who are in unimaginable distress. The committee would like to suggest that members of your society appeal to the bhaktas, devotees, attending your discourses, to contribute their mite to the Andhra Pradesh Relief Fund. The committee is prepared to send some of its representatives along with members of your society wherever you wish to distribute prasad to the hungry millions in the state. The Madhava Seva is Madhava Seva. Oh, wait. As Manava Seva is Madhava Seva. This is a common Hindu saying. They say service to man is service to God. The committee is confident that even a little effort by your gracious society will go a long way in mitigating the sufferings of hundreds and thousands of people. Okay, that yours in the service of the Lord, T.L. Kapadia, Secretary, Andhra Pradesh Relief Fund Committee, Hyderabad, India. Okay. My dear Mr. Kapadia, please accept my greetings. With reference to your letter and your personal interview, I beg to inform you that without pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, no one can become happy. Unfortunately, people do not know who God is and how to make him happy. Our Krishna consciousness movement is therefore meant to present the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly to the people. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th Canto, Chapter 6, Tushte chatatra kim alabhyam ananta adye, kim tar gunavyaktikarat iha ye sway siddhaha. Swasiddhaha. The idea stated in this verse is that by pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we please everyone. And there is no question of scarcity. Because people do not know this secret of success, they are making their own independent plans to be happy. However, it is not possible to achieve happiness in this way. On your letterhead, I find many important men in this country. I find many important men in this country who are interested in relieving the sufferings of the people. But they should know for certain that without pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all their attempts will be futile. A diseased man cannot live simply on the strength of the help of an expert physician in medicine. If this were so, then no rich man would ever die. One must be favored by Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, if you want to perform relief work simply by collecting funds, I think that it will not be successful. You have a, you have to please the Supreme Authority, and that is the way to success. For example, due to the performance of Sankirtan here, the rain has begun to fall after a drought of 2 years. The last time we performed a Hare Krishna festival in Delhi, there was imminent danger of Pakistan's declaring war. And when a newspaperman approached me for my opinion, I said there must be fighting because the other party was aggressive. However, because of our Sankirtan movement, India emerged victorious. Similarly, when we held a festival in Calcutta, the Naxalite communist movement stopped. These are facts. Through the Sankirtan movement, we can not only get all facilities for living, but also at the end can go back home, back to Godhead. Those who are of a demonic nature cannot understand this, but it is a fact. I therefore request you, as leading members of society, to join this movement. There is no loss on anyone's part for chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, but the gain is great. According to Bhagavad Gita 3:21, what is accepted by leading men is also accepted by common men. Yad yad acharchi shreshtas tadevetaro jana, sayat pramanam kurute lokastat anuvartate. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow in his footsteps. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. The Sankirtan movement of Krishna consciousness is very important. Therefore, through you, I wish to appeal to all the leading men of India to accept this movement very seriously and give us all facility to spread this movement throughout the world. Then there will be a very happy condition, not only in India, but all over the world. Hoping this will meet you in good health. Your ever well-wisher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. So that's Srila Prabhupada's response to just materialistic philanthropic work. And it's emphasized in the Nectar of Devotion that philanthropic activities done just on the material platform, or he was trying to raise money just for mundane philanthropy. It may benefit one type of person, but it causes suffering for another type of person because it's not on the absolute platform. So therefore, it can't be absolute good. It can't bring the ultimate good or ultimate philanthropy. And Srila Prabhupada's emphasizing that rather than simply trying to use the Hare Krishna movement's facilities and people for your purpose, rather you come and join us in hearing and chanting, and in that way it will actually bring the true alleviation to the problem, which is deeper than just, we can feed people, but if we don't solve the root of the problem, then it doesn't change much. Ultimately, we're always going to be hungry. But yeah, I'm not sure how far this went, what kind of further discussion there was, because this is here, but there is a lot of efforts. Actually, they distribute all the schools. I think in Bengal, at least, I know in Bengal, I think every school now, the children in that school are fed by ISKCON temples, prasadam, and they do over over a billion or multiple billions a day, or over a billion, I think, plates. It's quite a lot of prasadam. They do everything. Even the trains now they're offering prasadam from ISKCON, all the national trains in India. So prasadam distribution is a big service there. Declaring our dependence on God. In a conversation with the Back to Godhead staff, Srila Prabhupada discusses the American Revolution. The Americans say they trust in God, but without the science of God, that trust is simply fictitious. First, take the science of God very seriously, then put your trust in Him. They're manufacturing their own way of governing, and that is their defect. They will never be successful. There will always be revolutions, one after another. There will be no peace. Back to Godhead. Thomas Jefferson put the basic philosophy of the American Revolution into the Declaration of Independence. The important men of the day who signed this document agreed that there are certain various obvious or self-evident truths, the first of which is that all men are created equal. By this they meant that all men are equal before the law and have an equal opportunity to be protected by the law. Prabhupada, yes, in that sense, men are, as you say, created equal. Back to Godhead. Another point in the Declaration of Independence is that all men are endowed by God with certain natural rights that cannot be taken away from them. These are the rights of life, liberty, and Srila Prabhupada, but animals also have the right to life. Why don't animals also have the right to live? The rabbits, for instance, are living in their own way in the forest. Why does the government allow hunters to go and shoot them? BTG, they are simply talking about human beings. Srila Prabhupada, then they have no real philosophy. The narrow idea that my family or my brother is good and that I can kill all others is criminal. Suppose that for my family's sake I kill your father. Is that philosophy? Real philosophy is suhridam sarvabhutanam, friendliness to all living entities. Certainly this applies to human beings, but even if you unnecessarily kill one animal, I shall immediately protest. What nonsense are you doing? BTG, the founders of America said that another natural right is the right to liberty or freedom. Freedom in the sense that the government doesn't have the right to tell you what kind of job you have to do. Srila Prabhupada, if the government is not perfect, it should not be allowed to tell people what to do. But if the government is perfect, then it can. BTG, the third natural right they mentioned was that every human being has the right to pursue happiness. Srila Prabhupada, yes. But your standard of happiness may be different from my standard. You may like to eat meat. I hate it. How can your standard of happiness be equal to mine? BTG, so should everyone be free to try to achieve whatever standard of happiness he wants? Srila Prabhupada, no. The standard of happiness should be prescribed according to the qualities of the person. You must divide the whole society into four groups: those with Brahmana qualities, those with Kshatriya qualities, those with Vaishya qualities, and those with Shudra qualities. What's that asterisk? Okay, we should hopefully, as we keep going, these will be memorized by everybody. Pretty basic points here. The Brahmanas are pious teachers, spiritual leaders of society. Kshatriyas are military and administrators. They protect people, they direct things, and they also take advice from the Brahmanas how to do that without, because Kshatriyas by themselves will degrade into materialists. But if they have spiritual guidance, then they can guide humanity properly. Vaishyas are the farmers and merchants, and Shudras are persons who just do general labor, artisans, things like that. They're really good at working with their hands and fixing things, or so many other qualities. Even actually, like IT, even that's considered like a kind of like a Shudra um, profession, things like that. So everyone should have good facility to work according to his natural qualities. You cannot engage a bull in the business of a horse, nor can you engage a horse in the business of a bull. Today, practically everyone is getting a college education. But what is taught at these colleges? Mostly technical knowledge, which is Shudra education. Real higher education means learning Vedic wisdom. This is meant for the Brahmanas. Alone, Shudra education leads to a chaotic condition. Everyone should be tested to find out which education he is suited for. Some Shudras may be given technical education, but most Shudras should work on the farms, because everyone is coming to the cities to get an education thinking we can get more money. The agriculture is being neglected. Now there is scarcity because no one is engaged in producing nice foodstuffs. All these anomalies have been caused by bad government. It's the duty of the government to see that everyone is engaged according to his natural qualities. Then people will be happy. Yeah, basically, since I don't remember what year, I guess the 20s or just before the 20s too, people started rushing to the cities before then, but from the farms and everything. In America, other countries like in India, it's happening now. People are leaving the villages and going to the cities, and it's causing a lot of distress, a lot of turmoil, a lot of instability because um, the farms are the backbone of everything in our society. They keep everything going. And what's happened now is basically you can't survive if you're a farmer and you want to just grow food for humans and like sell it. You won't be able to survive. You won't make enough money basically because it's so bought out by these huge corporations, these big business, these big, big business took over all the farming even. And it's just, yeah, it's the whole system's messed up now. And I've heard from persons who have tried, and they basically it's to start it would be next to impossible. But that's something we're doing with the farm communities is well, not trying to maintain ourselves economic like with so much money, but living and maintaining being self-sustaining in terms of just having like an eco village where people can live and practice and provide the food necessary for their own survival there. And then yeah, as that expands, it can become more a possibility. I think one of the major things that had happened, and it's still happening in some countries, and maybe in America, I don't know if it how it is. I know there's some who still have heirloom seeds, but a lot of these big genetically modified, I guess, seed companies, they would develop seeds that work in certain conditions and maybe produce bigger crops or big higher yields, and they'd convince farmers to buy these. And after a few years, they lose their stock of seeds that they had previously been using. And then they have to keep buying these other seeds, which you can't reproduce with them. They basically they don't provide seeds that can be used for reproduction. So you have to keep going back to these businesses and buying more seeds. And that way the farmers become completely dependent on these big companies. They did that. I don't know how it must be happening in America, but it's certainly happening in other countries, especially those who have different environmental difficulties, sometimes drought or things. They give seeds that are drought resistant. And then these whole communities are stuck on these. They have to maintain the expenses of buying from these other people, which anyway, they basically become owned by these companies. And in America, I think most of the farm isn't even for food for human beings. Most of our farmland is basically producing food for cattle and animals so they can be slaughtered. Like in Indiana, I grew up in Indiana, and you can see miles of cornfields, but none of that's for human beings. It's all for slaughterhouses, for feed. So we're using all of our land and so much energy to produce foodstuff so that we can maintain this quality, the society of eating meat, which is so totally unsustainable. Even they're using now, I think the recent thing in the last few years was that they're cutting down or burning the rainforest in big sections to graze cattle for McDonald's. That's happening too. I guess there's huge pushbacks in different places, but I mean the money is what speaks for for these types of people. So anyway, just some of the modern things we're going through in relation to the food production and agriculture. So back to Godhead says, so if the government artificially puts all men into one class, then there can't be happiness. Srila Prabhupada, no, that is unnatural and will cause chaos. PTG, America's founding fathers didn't like classes because they'd had such bad experience with them. Before the revolution, Americans had been ruled by monarchs, but the monarchs would always become tyrannical and unjust. Srila Prabhupada, because they weren't trained to be saintly monarchs. In Vedic civilization, boys were trained from the very beginning of life as first-class brahmacharis, celibate students. They went to the Gurukul, the school of the spiritual master, and learned self-control, cleanliness, truthfulness, and many other saintly qualities. The best of them were later fit to rule the country. The American Revolution has no special significance. The point is that when people become unhappy, they revolt. That was done in America. That was done in France. And that was done in Russia. Back to Godhead. The American revolutionaries said that if a government fails to rule the people properly, then the people have the right to dissolve that government. Srila Prabhupada, yes. Just as in Nixon's case, they pulled him down. But if they replace Nixon with another Nixon, then what is the value? They must know how to replace Nixon with a saintly leader, because people do not have that training and that culture. They will go on electing one Nixon after another and never become happy. People can be happy. People can be happy. The formula for happiness is there in the Bhagavad Gita. The first thing they must know is that the land belongs to God. Why do Americans claim that the land belongs to them? When the first settlers went to America, they said, "This land belongs to God. Therefore, we have a right to live here." So why are they now not allowing others to settle on the land? What is their philosophy? There are so many overpopulated countries. The American government should let those people go to America and should give them facility to cultivate the land and produce grains. Why are they not doing that? They have taken others' property by force, and by force they are checking others from going there. What is the philosophy behind this? What about today? Oh my God. It's like turning up the heat now. BTG. There is no philosophy. Srila Prabhupada. Roguism is their philosophy. They take the property by force, and then they make a law that no one can take another's property by force. So they are thieves. They cannot restrict God's property from being occupied by God's sons. America and the other countries in the United Nations should agree that wherever there is enough land, it may be utilized by the human society for producing food. The government can say, all right, you are overpopulated, your people can come here. We will give them land and they can produce food. We would see a wonderful result. But will they do that? No. Then what is their philosophy? Roguism. I will take the land by force and then I won't allow others to come here. BTG. One American motto is one nation under God. Srila Prabhupada, yes, that is Krishna consciousness. There should be one nation under God, and one world government under God as well. Everything belongs to God, and we are all his sons. That philosophy is wanted. But in America, people are very much afraid of a central government because they think that whenever there's a strong government, there will also be tyranny. Srila Prabhupada, if the leaders are properly trained, there cannot be tyranny. PTG, but one of the premises of the American system of government is that if a leader has too much power, he will inevitably become corrupt. Srila Prabhupada, you have to train him in such a way that he cannot become corrupt. What is that training process? Srila Prabhupada, that training is the Varnashram Dharma. Divide the society according to quality and train people in the principle that everything belongs to God and should be used in the service of God. Then there really can be one nation under God. PTG. But if society is divided into different groups, won't there be envy? Srila Prabhupada, no, no. Just as in my body there are different parts that work together, so the society can have different parts working for the same goal. My hand is different from my leg, but when I tell my hand, bring a glass of water, the leg will help. The leg is required, and the hand is required. BTG. But in the Western world, we have a working class and a capitalist class, and there is always warfare going on between the two. Srila Prabhupada, yes, the capitalist class is required, and the working class is also required. BTG. But they are fighting. Srila Prabhupada, because they are not trained up. They have no common cause. The hand and the leg work differently, but the common cause is to maintain the body. So if you find out the common cause for both the capitalists and the workers, then there will be no fighting. But if you do not know the common cause, then there will always be fighting. Revolution? Srila Prabhupada, yes. Then the most important thing is to find the common cause that people can unite on. Srila Prabhupada, yes, just like in our Krishna consciousness society, you come to consult me about every activity because I can give you the common cause. Otherwise, there will be fighting. The government should be very expert to know the aim of life, the common cause, and they should train the people to work for the common cause. Then, They will be happy and peaceful. But if people simply elect rascals like Nixon, they will never find a common cause. Any rascal can secure votes by some arrangement, and then he becomes the head of the government. The candidates are bribing, they are cheating, they are making propaganda to win votes. Somehow or other, they get votes and capture the prime post. This system is bad. BTG. So, if we don't choose our leaders by popular election, how will society be governed? Srila Prabhupada. You require brahmanas, kshatriyas, vaishyas, and shudras. Just as when you want to construct a building, you require engineers. You don't want sweepers. Isn't that so? What will the sweeper do? No, there must be engineers. So if you follow the division of Varnashram, only kshatriyas are allowed to govern. And for the legislative assembly, the senators, only qualified brahmanas. Now the butcher is in the legislative assembly. What does he know about making laws? He's a butcher. But by winning votes, he becomes a senator. At the present moment, by the principle of vox populi, a butcher goes to the legislature. So everything depends on training. In our Krishna consciousness society, we're actually doing that. But in the case of politics, they forget it. There cannot be just one class. That is foolishness, because we have to engage different classes of men in different activities. If we do not know the art, then we will fail. Because unless there is a division of work, there will be havoc. We have discussed all the responsibilities of the king in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The different classes in society should cooperate exactly as the different parts of the body do. Although each part is meant for a different purpose, they will work for one cause. They will work for one cause to maintain the body properly. BTG, what is the actual duty of the government? I wonder how long. Let me see how long this is. We might pause for discussion. Okay, we can try to finish this, I think. Yeah. Srila Prabhupada. So what is the duty, actual duty of the government, they asked? And to understand what God wants and to see that society works toward that aim. Then people will be happy. But if the people work in the wrong direction, how can they be happy? The government's duty is to see that they are working in the right direction. The right direction is to know God and to act according to his instructions. But if the leaders themselves do not believe in the supremacy of God, and if they do not know what God wants to do or what he wants us to do, then how can there be good government? The leaders are misled, and they are misleading others. That is demonic, or sorry, that is the chaotic condition of the world in the world today. So there was someone going up outside the window, and they looked in, and I got distracted by them. So leaders are misled, and they're misleading others. BTG. In the United States, there has traditionally been the separation of church and state. Srila Prabhupada, I'm not talking about the church. Church or no church, that is not the point. The main thing is that the leaders have to accept that there is a supreme controller. How can they deny it? Everything in nature is going on under the Supreme Lord's control. The leaders cannot control nature, so why don't they accept a supreme controller? That is the defect in society. In every respect, the leaders are feeling that there must be a supreme controller, and yet they are still denying him. BTG, but suppose the government is atheistic. Srila Prabhupada, then there cannot be good government. The Americans say they trust in God, but without the science of God, that trust is simply fictitious. First, take the science of God very seriously, then put your trust in him. They do not know what God is, but we do. We actually trust in God. They're manufacturing their own way of governing, and that is their defect. They will never be successful. They are imperfect, and if they go on manufacturing their own ways and means, they will remain imperfect. There will always be revolutions, one after another. There will be no peace. BTG, who determines the regulative principles of religion that people should follow? Prabhupada, God. God is perfect. He does that. According to the Vedic version, God is the leader of all living entities. Nitya Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam. Katu Upanishad 2.2.13. We are different from him because he is all perfect and we are not. We are very small. We have the qualities of God, but in very small quantity. Therefore, we have only a little knowledge. That's all. With a little knowledge, you can manufacture a 747 airplane, but you cannot manufacture a mosquito. I love that. Prabhupada says it. So, yeah, it looks like you can make something like it, but God has created the mosquito's body, which is also an airplane. And that is the difference between God and us. We have knowledge, but it is not as perfect as God's. So the leaders of the government have to consult God. Then they will rule perfectly. BTG, has God also devised the most perfect government? Srila Prabhupada, oh yes. The Kshatriyas ruled the government in Vedic times. When there was a war, the king was the first to fight, just like your George Washington. He fought when there was a war. But what kind of president is ruling now? When there is a war, he sits very securely and telephones orders. He's not fit to be president. When there is war, the president should be the first to come forward and lead the battle. But if man is small and imperfect, how can he execute God's orders for a perfect government? Srila Prabhupada, although you may be imperfect, because you are carrying out my order, you are becoming perfect. You have accepted me as your leader, and I accept God as my leader. In this way, society can be governed perfectly. BTG, so good government means, first of all, to accept the Supreme Being as the real ruler of the government. Srila Prabhupada, you cannot directly accept the Supreme Being. You must accept the servants of the Supreme Being, the Brahmanas or Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord, as your guides. The government men are Kshatriyas, the second class. The Kshatriyas should take advice from the Brahmanas or Vaishnavas and make laws accordingly. The Vaishyas should carry out the Kshatriyas' orders in practice, and the Shudras should work under these three orders. Then society will be perfect. Okay, so we'll pause there. Oh, getting a phone call. Hold on, I gotta update this bookmark. Let me tell him I'll call him right back. Okay, call. Okay, so comments, questions? Hey, we got more mail. Good reason. I feel the point about working hard to no avail without purpose. That's a really nice point. Yeah. Sorry, I missed that earlier. I didn't, the little videos thing that has everybody's pictures was covering the message. So that came from Ike. He's saying he was feeling the point about working hard to no avail without purpose. And that's such an important thing is that we actually know what are we doing, for what purpose are we doing what we're doing. And otherwise we can just find ourselves doing stuff. I mean, trying to chase the American dream or whatever it may be. But unless we're properly situated in a purpose, and that, of course, for someone who would be coming to this call, that purpose would ideally be of a spiritual nature, of, you know, deepening our relationship with God and understanding that because ultimately at the time of death, whatever our purpose was, that's what we're going to be thinking about. So we should make our purpose to be having our mind properly situated at the time of death. That's that's so essential. Mhm. It would be wild to live in a, this is from Vince. It would be wild to live in a time where our kingdom would be aimed toward Krishna. Yeah, that's possible. Um, we may have before. It depends on, I don't, maybe, I don't know. It depends on where we, what our karma was and what kind of qualities we've got. But yeah, it's possible. I mean, I don't know. In Kali Yuga, we're gonna have a lot of uh, variety. So there will be sections of society which are very God conscious and still maintain those principles and focus in that way. And it's possible to see that expand in some parts of the world. It will become more prominent. In some parts of the world, it'll become more materialistic. But you can get pockets of it too. especially if you find good communities that are devotional. But yeah, if the whole atmosphere of like the human society being Krishna conscious, the vibration of the planet would be completely different. Even if 1% of our population were Krishna conscious, it would be a whole different atmosphere. Actually, our meditations, the things we're desiring, the prayers we're making, the mantras we're chanting, all this has an effect in the world. It is affecting the direction that humanity is moving. Um, of course, an individual, if they're extremely powerful, very advanced spiritual beings with um, pure hearts, and they're living and calling out purely, they have a more influential effect by their prayers. But as a whole, as society, if we have that happening, one, our own devotion is increasing, it's deepened, and we can call more clear, more sincerely because the atmosphere is purified. There's a whole mental atmosphere that's we're all affected by in the world, and there's a there's subtle connections, and the more that we're ourselves directed towards Krishna, and others are also directed towards Krishna, it has its effect on how things turn out. How um, like even Prabhupada was mentioning that there was a war and that India came out victorious because of their engagement in the Sankirtan movement. So those who are uh, very strong in their faith and in their devotion, things will work out actually in their favor in a natural way because the Lord's arranging everything. So um, yeah, it basically he's he's fulfilling our desires, and if our desire is for materialism and gross gross sense gratification, then we're also going to experience the results of those desires in the world. Uh-huh. Reminds me of the part where he did kirtan. Yeah, I was thinking of another one. So he's mentioning about the kirtan that Srila Prabhupada mentioned that brought, yeah, he mentioned the war, but also the rain. There was a drought for 2 years in one place. And there, because this person who was writing the letter was to Srila Prabhupada was requesting help with, you know, alleviating the suffering of the drought. And Srila Prabhupada's saying, no, you guys come to us and chant. We were chanting in this other place. I think that was in Africa. I don't remember where that was. And they 2 years there was no rain, but they went there and started chanting Hare Krishna and holding a festival. And within that festival, it started raining for the first time in 2 years. And so he's saying, rather than us going to you and just trying to distribute food, better that you guys all come and join us in chanting, and this will alleviate the real problem. And there's another one. Um, oh yeah, Srila Prabhupada wrote once, and when he was young, there was an outbreak. There was some kind of like plague. There was a plague that broke out in Calcutta, and it was just sweeping the city. Many people were dying. It was really severe. And there was one sadhu who basically he went door to door and rallied everybody to go chant the names of God, do Sankirtan, and chant in the streets. So he gathered this huge following people to come, and they're all chanting and chanting the names of God, doing kirtan, and then the plague actually dissipated and ceased. So there is an effect to calling on the names of God. It's a pure thing, and there. I mean, I don't think I need to convince anybody here, but there are. I was just doing. I'm in this course right now, and we're going through different ways of presenting Krishna consciousness to the academic or scientific communities. And one point of information that's helpful for presenting Krishna consciousness or showing kind of adding to the worldview is that there is very strong research that um, our intentions and our desires actually do have an effect on the external world and how things turn out and what to speak if we have one pointed attention. Krishna describes most people, actually 99.9% of the people have very splayed attention. Our intelligence is many branched. But those who are resolute in determination and fully fixed in devotion, they're in samadhi. Basically, they have one pointed attention. That means all of their energy, they have no reserve. Everything is fully fixed. And those persons, their prayers are very potent and very effective. Their desires will come to be because their desires are pure for the service of God. That's why, like the brahmanas or the pure devotees, when they have a desire or they make a statement, it's expected that that thing will be is true. They speak the truth. Mhm. Anyways, that's a little tangent there, but just knowing that we do have power to make a difference, even if it's just in our own applying Krishna consciousness. Even if we're not doing some big thing in the world, just by doing it actually is helping. The more that each of us individually is doing it, we add to the effect. We can create a better world simply by ourselves being Krishna conscious. And not to be idealistic or utopian. The fact is the material world is meant to degrade and there's meant to be suffering, but it can alleviate it in different ways and it can produce an atmosphere that's more conducive for God realization. Okay, so as I'm trying to carry on as far as possible, I'm grateful for your discussion here, Ike and Vince. And Yogi, you're on the call too. Are you available to talk?
I'm listening mostly. I'm working, but I wanted to be here and listen.
I'm sure you probably heard about what I was talking about with our intentions or our desires having an effect because it was discussed by Akandadi Das or Prabhu who does the Atma paradigm. And you said you were listening to some of his lectures.
Yeah.
He's part of this course too, and he's guiding it. He's going through that his whole presentation. And he mentioned,
Ah, yes. Yes. Yeah.
"Oh, Ike's got something coming through here. I'll wait till I see the rest before I read it."
One time the uncle sick.
Hey, man.
Yeah, there was something you said earlier. I wish I remembered. But yeah, I
Uh-huh.
was meditating. Vision.
Oh, oopsie.
I definitely agree with Vince as well. I thought about a time it would be wild to live in a time where the kingdom would be aimed toward Krishna. Like when I'm reading the
Yeah.
Mahabharata, I'm just always like, ah, so good.
Yeah, that's ideal. I mean, we can our life is very short. Of course, I mean, we can go back to Godhead and we can be in a time where everything's focused on Krishna. We can be in a space where everybody's God conscious and all these things we're hearing in the Bhagavatam about Krishna's activities, we can be hearing them firsthand from someone who saw them, or we can be seeing them. Just
Man,
all that's totally there. Uh, one can experience that in this life, but it's a different thing when you leave the body and then appear, you take birth wherever Krishna's activities are going on, or Lord Chaitanya's pastimes are happening, and you're associating and learning about Krishna or Lord Chaitanya from childhood and seeing him and there's maybe even a familial connection. You might have be cousin brothers or whatever. That quality of life that's real life. And then that's where we get our final training up and one would enter into their eternal pastimes and they won't appear in this world again unless they have some service or something they want to do.
man, just the
Okay,
part.
let's see now. I think we got hopefully I don't know if this is the whole thing. So Ike says, one time my uncle in Cincinnati was very sick. I was meditating and praying, visualizing him healing. He was in the hospital bed. I think because I had enhanced focus and emotions, I had a crazy experience. It's like I entered his body, and the next day
He was healed.
he was healed. Okay, I'm guessing that means he was healed. And I was sick, but minor. I agree those with single pointedness and pure heart can really make shifts in this realm. Yeah, that's powerful. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a mystic. That kind of stuff is mystics. It's some kind
Yeah.
of potency or capacity that ability to take on the suffering of others. I've heard of that from some devotees. I think Rasika Shiromani, he said he had that sometimes. He would take on other people's pains and difficulties sometimes if he would get too involved or like in terms of like he would do like massages and stuff. He would actually take people's suffering. So that can happen. Yeah. So that's an ability. And there are some even, I think there's a guy, one devotee in Dallas, he's got that ability to heal. He can heal people from certain ailments and things. So that it's their mystic abilities. And again, the point is though that single pointedness, pure heart, we can access things which are not accessible to um, in a state when we're not focused or fixed in concentration. And what to speak if we're fixed in concentration on Krishna? He can take care of everything for us. Whatever's needed, he'll arrange for us in our lives. Okay. Thank you all. Hare Krishna. I gotta get back to the temple president just called me, so I can't keep him waiting too long.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Potita.
Hare Krishna.
No, thank you.
So nice to have all of you guys.
Yeah, nice seeing you, Van, tonight. Bye,
Hare Krishna.
people.